every weapon the British Army has ever fired in combat. From medieval longbows to modern guided missiles, the British Army has spent 800 years perfecting the art of war. Today, every weapon that was actually fired in combat. The English longbow, known as the Widowmaker. This wasn't just a weapon, it was England's first weapon of mass destruction. Standing 6 feet tall and requiring 150 pounds of draw strength, the longbow could punch through plate armor at 200 yards. At the Battle of Crécy in 1346, English archers unleashed 500,000 arrows in a single engagement, a storm of wood and iron that annihilated the French cavalry. Archers trained from childhood, and their skeletal remains show warped spines and enlarged left arms from decades of practice. The longbow didn't just win battles, it built a kingdom. The billhook, called the hedge cutter of war, originally a farming tool, the billhook became a nightmare for mounted knights. Its hooked blade could yank riders from saddles, slice through reins, and hamstring horses in a single brutal motion. English peasants carried these into battle because they couldn't afford swords, but knights learned to fear them more. Common men with common tools, ending noble bloodline. The halberd, the all-purpose executioner, part axe, part spear, part hook, the halberd was medieval multitasking at its most violent. Royal guards carried these weapons for centuries, and they weren't ceremonial. At the Battle of Flodden in 1513, English halberds cut through Scottish pike formations like scissors through paper, a single weapon that could stab, slash, and pull armored men to the ground. The arming sword, the knight's companion, the classic cruciform sword, balanced, deadly, and personal. This wasn't the weapon of peasants. Knights trained for years, mastering cuts, thrusts, and half-swording techniques for close combat. These blades saw action from the Crusades through the Wars of the Roses. Thousands of men died with these swords in their hands, fighting for kings they'd never met. The mace and warhammer. When armor became too thick to cut, soldiers started crushing. Maces and warhammers delivered concentrated force directly through plate armor, pulverizing bones without piercing metal. The psychological impact was devastating. You didn't need to see blood to know the damage was done. Brutal, efficient, medieval. The matchlock musket, called the thunderstick. The first firearm to see widespread British military use, was terrifying to everyone, including the soldiers firing it. Matchlock muskets used a lit fuse to ignite powder, meaning you were essentially carrying fire next to explosives. They were inaccurate beyond 50 yards, took 30 seconds to reload, and could misfire in rain. But when 500 of them fired together, the psychological shock alone could break enemy formations. Warfare had entered the age of noise and smoke. The flintlock musket, famously known as Brown Bess. If there's one weapon that built the British Empire, it's this one. Brown Bess served for over 100 years, from 1722 to the 1830s. She fought in America, India, Europe, and Africa. Soldiers could fire 3 rounds per minute in trained hands, and her .75 caliber ball could shatter bone at 100 yards. Over 3 million were manufactured. They armed redcoats at Bunker Hill, Waterloo, and across every continent. When you think of the British soldier in his red coat, Brown Bess is in his hands. The Baker rifle, the sharpshooter's choice. While regular infantry blazed away with smoothbore muskets, elite riflemen carried something far more precise. The Baker rifle had spiral grooves that spun the bullet, achieving accuracy at 300 yards. Triple the range of standard muskets. The 95th Rifles used these weapons in the Napoleonic Wars, picking off French officers with surgical precision. One shot could decapitate an entire company's leadership. The cavalry saber, the curved killer. Cavalry didn't just carry guns. They carried 3 feet of curved steel designed for one purpose: slashing from horseback. The 1796 light cavalry saber was so brutally effective that wounded French soldiers showed wounds cut to the bone. At the Battle of Waterloo, British cavalry carved through Napoleon's retreating army. It wasn't elegant. It was butchery on horseback. The lance, the 13-foot death sentence. Imagine a steel point coming at you at 30 miles per hour, backed by 1,200 pounds of horse and rider. British lancers used these weapons through the Napoleonic Wars and beyond. The reach was terrifying. Enemies couldn't get close enough to fight back before they were skewered. Polish Lancers proved their effectiveness so thoroughly that the British adopted the weapon and never looked back. The Enfield rifle musket, pattern 1853, the weapon that armed Britain through the Crimean War and the Indian Rebellion. Its mini-ball expanded upon firing, gripping the rifled barrel for devastating accuracy. At the siege of Sevastopol, British marksmen outranged Russian defenders by hundreds of yards. This rifle made the old smoothbore musket obsolete overnight. The Martini-Henry, known as the Zulu Stopper, a single-shot .450 caliber rifle that could drop a charging warrior at 400 yards. At Rorke's Drift, 150 British soldiers fired these rifles until the barrels glowed red, holding off 4,000 Zulu warriors through the night. The Martini-Henry wasn't just a weapon, it was the reason those soldiers survived. British soldiers loved it. Their enemies feared it. The Lee-Metford and Lee-Enfield, the bolt-action rifle that would define British infantry for 60 years. First introduced in 1888, the Lee-Metford evolved into the Lee-Enfield, a rifle so well designed that variants served into the 21st century. 10-round magazines and smooth bolt actions meant trained soldiers could fire 30 aimed shots per minute. The Germans at Mons in 1914 thought they were facing machine guns. They were facing exceptionally trained riflemen. The Maxim Gun, called the Devil's Paintbrush, the weapon that changed everything. Hiram Maxim's invention could fire 600 rounds per minute, more than an entire company of riflemen. The British used it to devastating effect in colonial wars, where technological superiority reached its most extreme. At the Battle of Omdurman in 1898, 10,000 modest warriors fell to British firepower in hours. The age of mass killing had begun. The Webley revolver, the officer's sidearm of choice for over 80 years. Heavy, reliable, and chambered in .455, the Webley was designed to stop a man with one shot. Officers carried these from the Sudan to the trenches of France, often as their last defense when positions were overrun. Personal, close range, and absolute. The short magazine Lee-Enfield, nicknamed the Smelly, the rifle that armed every British soldier in the trenches. Over 17 million were produced. The smell was accurate, reliable, and fast, capable of aimed fire faster than any contemporary rifle. Soldiers formed emotional bonds with their weapons, giving them names and keeping them cleaner than themselves. This rifle saw more horror than any weapon in British history. The Vickers machine gun, the queen of the battlefield. Water-cooled and belt-fed, the Vickers could fire continuously for hours. During the Battle of the Somme, a single Vickers section fired for 12 hours straight, over 100,000 rounds, without stopping. The barrels glowed white, the water boiled, but the gun kept firing. It was mechanical slaughter, industrialized and efficient. The Lewis gun, the Belgian rattlesnake, the first practical light machine gun, portable enough for one soldier to carry. With its distinctive cooling shroud, the Lewis gave infantry firepower that previously required entire teams. By 1918, every British platoon had these weapons, fundamentally changing how units fought. Individual soldiers became walking fire support. The Mills bomb, called the Pineapple, the first modern fragmentation grenade, and it looked like it sounded. Soldiers could throw these 30 yards, and the segmented iron body burst into deadly shrapnel. In trench warfare, grenades weren't secondary weapons, they were primary. Bombers went first, clearing dugouts before riflemen followed. Trenches became grenade ranges. The bayonet. When ammunition ran out and trenches collapsed into chaos, warfare returned to something ancient. The 17-inch blade fixed to the smell turned every rifle into a spear. Soldiers were trained to thrust, twist, and withdraw, designed to create wounds that couldn't be easily treated. Bayonet charges still happened in 1918. Technology failed to eliminate the most primal form of killing. Chemical weapons, chlorine and mustard gas. We must acknowledge the weapons that British forces both suffered and deployed. After the German gas attacks at Ypres, Britain retaliated with its own chemical weapons. First chlorine, then the horrific mustard gas that burned skin, blinded eyes, and destroyed lungs over agonizing hours. These weapons were eventually banned by international law. Their legacy is eternal shame. The Lee-Enfield No. 4, an updated smell for a new war. Easier to manufacture and just as reliable, the No-4 served from North African deserts to European forests to Pacific jungles. Snipers used scoped versions to reach out past 600 yards. Same legendary action, modernized for a mechanized war. The Sten Gun, called the plumber's nightmare. Ugly, cheap, and absolutely essential. Built from stamped metal and costing $2 to produce, the Sten was designed for mass production when Britain stood alone. It jammed frequently, sometimes fired when dropped, but it put submachine gun firepower in every soldier's hands. Beauty didn't matter. Winning mattered. The Bren gun, the light machine gun perfected, perhaps the most beloved weapon in British military history. Czech design but British built, the Bren was accurate, reliable, and easy to maintain. Soldiers trusted it with their lives across every theater. Its distinctive curved magazine became an iconic silhouette of we British forces. Ask any veteran. They loved their Brens. The PIAT, called the tin opener. Britain's anti-tank solution looked ridiculous, but worked. Using a spring-loaded spigot system, the PIAT could penetrate German armor at 100 yards. It was heavy, awkward, and had brutal recoil. But when a Tiger tank was rolling toward your position, you grabbed whatever worked. Several Victoria Crosses were awarded for PIAT action. The Fairbairn-Sykes fighting knife, the commando dagger, silent, personal, and terrifying. Designed by two Shanghai policemen with decades of close combat experience, the FS knife was issued to commandos, SAS, and airborne forces. Its stiletto design was optimized for one purpose: killing quickly and quietly. Some weapons are surgical. This one was an assassin's tool. The SLAR, also known as L1A1, called the right arm of the free world. The Belgian FAL adapted for British service. Chambered in 7.62 NATO, the SLAR hit hard and reached far. It served from the jungles of Borneo to the streets of Belfast to the hills of the Falklands. Soldiers complained about the weight, but loved the stopping power. If you hit someone with 7.62, they went down. The Sterling submachine gun. Replacing the Sten, the Sterling was everything its predecessor wasn't: well made. Its distinctive curved magazine and excellent reliability made it a favorite among vehicle crews, tank commanders, and special forces. It saw action in the Falklands, where close-quarters combat proved its worth. Compact, dependable, deadly. The GPMG, also called the Gimpy. Belt-fed, 7.62 mm, and utterly dominant. The general-purpose machine gun could be mounted on vehicles, used on tripods, or carried into battle by very strong soldiers. It provided sustained fire support from the Falklands to Afghanistan. When the Gimpy spoke, everyone listened. The Carl Gustav, nicknamed Charlie G. Swedish design, British devastation. This reusable, recoilless rifle could fire rockets at bunkers, vehicles, and fortifications. Falklands veterans credit the Carl Gustav with winning key engagements against Argentine positions. Portable artillery for the infantryman. 30 weapons. 800 years of British military history. Which one changed warfare the most? Tell me in the comments, and subscribe for more.